Before we begin this video, I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you so much for supporting me and for all of your kind words, your DMs, your text messages, and your comments on this channel. When I posted yesterday sort of a candid video about how I'm navigating grief, it was a very vulnerable video to share with the World Wide Web. And I've always stood in my truth as an Aquarian. I'm always just like, this is me and this is how it is. And I also really, really believe that it's super important for our current society to recognize the depth of grief that we all hold in our bodies and how it has been common practice over the last 100 years easily to kind of brush grief away, to hide it under a rug, to pretend like it's not happening, to stay strong, to hold in your tears, to, um, you know, focus on the positive. And I, I just strongly believe that without expressing our grief, we're holding in a lot of anger and it's manifesting in really negative ways that impact our entire society worldwide. We just haven't been taught in many of our homes in modern society. We have not been taught how to navigate grief properly or how to navigate it at all. And I'm a big advocate for allowing that grief to surface, to be shared with family, with friends, with strangers, with communities like the one that we are creating here on the Gardens and Graveyards channel. And so when I allowed myself to be vulnerable and post it on this channel, it was a little edgy to do from a business perspective, but it was very normal for me on a personal level. So I just really wanted to say thank you all for all of your support, your kind words, and your love. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you. Hi there. Welcome back to the Gardens and Graveyard channel. My name's Charisma. Today we're meeting in the studio and we are going to play with plants. So I have a bunch of Pothos and Philodendrons here, plus a couple other little trailers that I'd like to take care of. Mainly, I'm working on my Pothos and Philodendrons, and I kind of wanted to tell you a little bit more about the difference between Pothos and Philodendrons because they look so incredibly similar and you treat them almost exactly the same. And I'm ready to, what I've been doing this year is consolidating all my plants. We've made a lot of like babies and separations throughout the years, and now I'm just going through a different stage, and I don't want everything to be super symmetrical and have two of the same kind of plant everywhere I am, and like whatever. I just want to consolidate all these so that I can introduce new plants and new species into the home garden environment. So, or the indoor home garden environment, I should say. So I've got a couple of different pothos varieties, and I have one philodendron variety that I'm just going to combine together. All of them are ready for haircuts, no matter what. And then some of them I can just like combine together. We will be making some cuttings. So I'm going to show you how to do that, how you can keep them alive, and how you can get them away, because I've got a little gathering happening next weekend that I would like to just maybe give away some plant babies and get them out of the house, which is just an awesome opportunity to share gifts and love and life into other people's homes when you're just like sharing little pieces of your home with your friends and family. It's just like a really special thing to see it growing in somebody else's house. I love that to see, and I encourage you, if you haven't tried that out, to do it yourself, because it's super fun to be like, that plant came from my home and we're connected in some way. So it's kind of special. All right, I'm actually going to clear this off so we can just work with one species at a time, and I have room to actually work. We're going to get potting soil in fresh containers and do some trimming and do some transplanting, and I'll like kind of probably voice over the specs and stats of the difference between a pothos and a philodendron and anything else that's super fun and interesting that I want to share. All right, so I thought we would start with the easiest possible thing, and that's going to be with this Marble Queen Pothos. And she doesn't actually need to be transplanted. These are all cuttings that I stuck in soil last winter, and it's just time to give her a little haircut. See, she's trailing quite a bit, so I'm actually going to cut her, and then we'll use the cuttings from here. We'll pop them back in the soil. We have some cuttings that I've been keeping in water in this vase that we're just going to put in here. And wah, wah, wah. Clearly, I ignored this vessel a little too long. And so I just wanted to show you that, while they're super resilient, if you don't keep water in the vessel, they're going to die. Just a side note. Okay, so all I'm going to do is, for this one, because I want the crown to be really full. I don't want to have like really long, leggy plants that don't have a center crown that's really full. So I'm going to just go trail by trail and see where we are. This one kind of got wrapped up and stashed inside of the container, and you could see how it kind of got wrapped right here. So what I want to do is I do like a little trail. They're supposed to be trailing, so I like to see that drapery. But for the purpose of this exercise, we are going to use the pot as the guideline. So I don't really want anything trailing much lower than this pot. So, for example, I just cut this off. If I just pop this in, it's still going to be too long. So what I'm actually going to do, especially since this is twisty, and you could see this is where I've cut it before, and it started a new trail. So I'm actually going to cut this off right here. And then I'm going to, keeping in mind that you want, wherever you're cutting, you want that to go in the soil, because that's where the how the plant is naturally feeding itself. You don't want to maybe cut this leaf off and plant this side of the stem, because the likelihood of that rooting and being as successful is lower. So this piece of the stem looks a little weak, so I'm actually going to cut it off here. And then I'm going to take this leaf off completely, and this leaf off completely. And then I'm going to take this stem, and this is too long, so I'm going to cut it right below where this node is. But I'm going to cut it below the node, because I want this node and this node to be underneath the soil surface. So I'm going to bury this stem all the way down like this. All right, I got my little handy dandy pencil here, and I'm just going to pop this. I'm going to make a little hole in the soil. See if we can show you. And then I'm going to pop this down where I put the hole, all the way, so that all those leaf nodes are covered. And I could really probably go another leaf node down, but that's okay. And I'm just going to kind of follow that guideline. Now, this one, it's so twisty, I'm not going to worry about trying to save them, but you can use these little small pieces too if you really want it to create a lot of little cuttings. However, and like even something like this, you could attempt to put these nodes underneath the surface of the soil, and try to get this one little leaf to grow into a plant. And I've had a lot of success doing something as simple as that, but I don't really need to do that this time. So let's see, where else do I have things? So, same with this really long trailer here. I think I'm just going to cut it here. Maybe. Seems a little... just going to also play with the aesthetics a little bit and see if that's going to work for me. I might actually want to cut it one more. Actually, it's fine. I'm going to leave it. It's going to be fine. All right, so then I have this piece that I just cut off. And again, I want to have smaller pieces to work with, so I'm going to cut it up here. And I'm going to remove some of these lower leaves. And then I'm going to bury this stem into kind of the middle of this crown to help make this plant a little fuller. And the more leaf nodes that you can get underneath the ground or underneath the soil surface, the better, because that everywhere there's a leaf node, you're going to get roots. Okay, so this one is kind of borderline, but I think I'm just going to leave it for today. And then we do have this one, which I cut up here. And it previously was cut up here. So you could see how the flow of the leaves are kind of going in weird directions. So it's kind of hard to determine which way I would bury this stem. So I'm not going to worry about this one because I have a bunch of these babies. So these ones were in water. We did these at the same time. We did the cuttings and stuck them in soil, and they took and they look great. And then we took cuttings and we put them in water. Now they're not as thriving as much because it's been a whole year sitting in this water. I mean, getting topped off, but you know. But you could see that they have a root system here. And we're just going to make sure that this root system gets put underneath the soil surface. And in this case, I don't want to cut it down because we've already established this little root. So we just want to make sure that the root gets down underneath the ground. Or I keep saying ground, but underneath the soil surface. Kind of manipulate it here. Okay. Okay. And same with this one here.
While I get these planted, I just want to point out some characteristics of the pothos. So you might notice here that these leaves are almost heart-shaped, but they're not as pronounced as the philodendron will be. And their leaves are thicker and more waxy, and maybe even a little bit bumpy in some varieties compared to the philodendron, which has a much thinner leaf. Pothos also have a pronounced aerial root at their leaf nodes that you won't find in philodendrons. The philodendrons are much thinner.
And we've got a couple of roots in this one. I'll just kind of turn it around and see where I'm at here. Oops. And this one looks pretty sad. It's really, it's like broken right there. It hasn't got a good root system on it, and it's not worth keeping. So we can set this off to the side and clean it later. Tomorrow. put it over here. And then we've got this one, and I clearly, which is unfortunate because it had a pretty good root system, but I didn't water it in time or keep enough water in this container. So this one looks okay, but I'm not even sure if this is the Marble Queen, so I'm not going to put it in there. Then the last thing I want to do with this one, because it's kind of low in soil, is I'm just going to add some fresh potting soil right on top. And because these plants root from those little nodes, any soil that, or, you know, any stem that's covered up by the soil, the probability of it growing roots is pretty high. Oh, I'm making a giant mess. Okay. I do not want to cover it so high that it's going to spill water everywhere every time I water it. So it's going to be kind of aware of that. I put a little too much in there. Okay. I will get this watered in with water with Grow fertilizer. This is the organic Grow Espoma fertilizer that I use for my houseplants. It doesn't have a drip tray right here, and it's going to go right back in the decorative container that it's already been living in my living room. So we'll go put that away and water it in, and then we'll move into our philodendrons. Okay, so for the philodendrons, I'm going to fill up this container with fresh potting soil. I'm just using this organic G&B potting soil. And I'm going to add some perlite into this one. Honestly, let's do this. So I'm going to need more room than that. Okay. Alright. Grab a tray. So when we water it, I think I'm going to put a little bit of moisture in this soil right away because it's really dry. And just sort of mix that water in a little bit. Doesn't have to be sopping wet, but it was really dry because I've been keeping the heater on in this room for the seedlings. It's very warm in here. And so the soil dried out. Okay, so the first one, we have this little container inside of another container. And can see that a lot of the soil is missing. This was a little cutting, probably from that plant right there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to gently pull out her roots. See, look at how much plant is being supported by that tiny root system. Isn't that wild? I'm going to clean it up here just a little bit. There's a piece right here with no leaves on it. Easier to see if there's anything struggling when it's out of its pot. So I just kind of want to take a look. These are certainly more delicate than the Pothos. So this looks okay, and I'm just going to make sure that her whole stem is underneath the ground, or underneath the soil, which, because it's so small, the soil level isn't high enough. So let's see what this one looks like. This one is potted directly in this container. And so let's take it out. Much more, there's a marble, much more rooted in. Again, just going to clean up any bits. And I'm just going to put this one okay, so I'm putting this one a little bit to the side so that I can put this one on the other side, and then we'll kind of spread them out. But first, let's get some soil in there. Just use this soil we just mixed up. Oh, that's a lot of. These philodendrons don't seem to respond as well to water cuttings and root cuttings as are pothos, in my experience, at least in my house. It could just be a personal experience that I'm having. I don't know. Okay, so this one just came apart. Look at this. Isn't that beautiful? It almost has no root system, and it has all this growth. So I'm going to put this stem back in the soil, and when we're done getting these all planted up, we're going to give this guy a haircut too. Because it is supporting so much plant material with almost no root systems, which is just such an amazing thing that plants do, isn't it?
Aside from having a much more pronounced heart-shaped, paper-thin leaf, the philodendron has a distinct characteristic of having a cataphyll, or a sheath, where the leaf comes out of the leaf node, which makes it a very distinct characteristic that the pothos does not share with it.
I do want to trim these a little bit so that those little root systems aren't working quite so hard. And again, I'm going to use the guideline of this pot and just cut there and take off a couple of these leaves. I can put this down inside of this container. And I think what I'm actually going to do with this one is cut it again. Maybe here. And this has already got some aerial roots on it, so I'm going to bury it up to this leaf node and see if these guys have a good chance. To grow into the crown here. Okay. And then I've got this one, which is getting quite heavy, and I'm sure it would be happy to not support such a heavy vine. All right. I do want plenty underneath the ground. Let's see. This one's really kind of twisting everywhere, so what I want to do is cut it where it's twisting. Let's get this stem in the soil. And then we can see where it kind of curlicues. We're going to get rid of the curlicue because that's just too difficult to work with. And we're going to take off this leaf and we're going to put these stems underneath the soil surface. Let's put it over here, I think. All right. And then this crazy curlicue is just too hard to work with. So we're going to get rid of these. Okay. So that is what I did there. So you see how the crown's pretty full and everybody's been trimmed back. And so now I'm just going to water it in. And then it'll just be really important to keep this really moist because there's so many cuttings without roots in them right now. Okay, I'm full of dirt. Okay. So those were pretty simple and easy. We're going to do the other pothos now. And that one we can take a bunch of cuttings from. We're going to consolidate them and then we're going to do a bunch of cuttings. So we've got this big guy and this little guy. Look at her. Look at this root system. Are you kidding me? These were cuttings from last December or January. Look at this. That is so insane. Clearly, they want to go into some more soil. We have a couple of yellow leaves. That's pretty normal. We'll clean up as we go, but I need to fill up a large container to put all of this mass inside of. So this is actually an exterior container that a Christmas tree came in one year, and they have really big holes, drainage holes. So I'm going to use some coffee filters and just cover up those holes. You can see where my finger is at. I'm just going to put a coffee filter right there. And then the soil won't fall out of it. but it will also allow for drainage because the filters are meant to have water come through them, right? So be fine. The only trick with that is to be really gentle when you're putting your first bit of soil in there, because it could dislodge the coffee filters and they would be useless. So just gently put it in there and kind of secure the filters in place. And then it just ends up like that. No biggie. Okay. Then I'm gonna mix up some soil and perlite. We don't need that much in there because we're going to be adding that container. So just want to make sure that there's soil up around the sides, fresh soil, and then we could just pop this container down in there. I do want to put a drip tray there. So I'm going to start with this one. Ooh, wish me luck. It's heavy. The problem with the trailers is just like managing them without breaking everything. This one doesn't have as much roots coming out the bottom, just a few. But it's definitely let's try to loosen this up a little bit. I don't want to cut it before I transplant it because I, again, want to use this pot as the guideline on how long those trails are going to be. Okay. Okay. I could do a little bit more underneath there. I want the soil line to be pretty close to the top, so I could just do a little bit more underneath there. Okay, great. Okay, I'm going to take a moment and clean up anything dead, broken, damaged, just little leaves like that, and sort of like, see, this one is not even really rooted in there, and it's just got one leaf, so it's not worth keeping to me. I'm just gonna okay. I'm sure I'll find more, but that's good for now. Now I want to go ahead and pull this guy out, and I'm kind of wondering if I should just fill this crown with the existing plant and give this one away. I kind of think I'm going to do that. So let's fill this container up. Okay. So then I'm just going to take this guy out. I might have to do some root pruning. How crazy is that thing? See how easy it comes out with its roots. Okay. Oh my goodness, look at that. So I'm actually just gonna barely loosen these roots so that they're not circling anymore. Just gonna open them up so that they are going down instead of around the pot. And then I can actually cut off some of these super long ones just so that I'm not fighting with that root system as I'm planting it. And then I'm gonna just go ahead and, oops, dead leaf, plant this right in here. And fill in the edges. We're back to working with pothos, so if these stems get buried a little bit, all that's going to do is encourage more root growth, which is totally fine. Oh, gosh, things are crazy. Well, I do not know what variety this particular pothos is, but it looks very similar to just like your everyday pothos. There's nothing like extra special about it, I guess. I mean, it's pretty special when they grow like crazy, but you can tell the difference in the vigorous growth for like kind of the original pothos versus the variegated pothos that we worked with a little while ago. I saw a stem that had no leaf up top, and this leaf looks really sad, but it has a root system, so I'm just going to cut it at the crown, and if it comes back, it comes back. All right, this one looks okay. It's not too low, especially since I'm going to give it away. I want it to be pretty full. So this one we'll leave alone. These two right here, I'm going to, again, just take off those lower leaves and then pop it down in the soil. Let's see if I can find my, just like that. This one, let's see, this has like a weird stem thing, but it has a growth point right there. So I'm going to leave that alone, and then we're going to cut this one and take off these lower leaves, plant it in here. Find a spot for it. Okay. And I think, oh, this one, super long. Okay. Just cut it right here. Lower leaf. Pop it in the crown. I like to try to get them as close to the middle of the crown as possible so that we keep that crown really full. It's not always doable, but I try. All right, so that's looking pretty good. But I think what I want to do is take a few of these cuttings and fill this crown up a little bit. So we're going to leave it right here as we work on this plant, on the bigger plant. Let's see, I don't need this anymore. I'm going to clear these off. Okay, so now we can go ahead and fill the sides of these since we're not going to combine them. We don't have enough soil. Okay, keep adding soil. Well, I always like to add perlite into my houseplant mixes because we have very humid environment here, and it's important to have as much drainage as possible for your houseplants. Okay. We've got enough soil all the way around now. Okay. So now what I want to do is just sort of separate these guys out and see what we're working with. Some of them are going to be extra. Oh, see, this one broke off. So we'll just take these out and see how this one's got like really strong aerial roots. I'm going to put one of them underneath the soil. Like this, where there's just a little bit of greenery missing from that side of the plant. Okay, I think we're pretty good. All right, so then we're gonna start kind of determining what needs to come off. Like this one is super long, and I'm gonna take it off right here. And this little curlicue, not as easy to work with, so I'm just gonna take off the curled part. Now we've got a decent stem, and because I really want to fill this crown, I'm actually gonna cut it again right here. And take this leaf off, and now I've got this piece to stick in to this pot in the middle, or as close to the middle as I can get with the roots. And I have this piece where we cut off, and there's some aerial roots here that I can cut that I can put underneath the soil surface in here. So from that one sort of trailing piece, we got two cuttings. This one I'm going to leave alone. This one I'm going to leave alone. Okay, so now this one, bare stem all the way to the crown till this space. I don't want that. So I'm going to cut this all the way down to the soil surface. I'm going to cut it off of this main stem here. I'm going to get rid of this stem. I'm going to take these leaves off, and I'm going to put this stem in the soil. Okay. At this point, I'm going to leave this plant as is. We'll get it all watered in. Let's add a little soil actually. Now that I know what the crown's going to look like, I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit more soil over the bottom of all these stems that I just put into this pot. Let's water this in. Same kind of thing as with the philodendron. We're going to need to keep these stems nice and moist until they're fully rooted in. I'm going to want to do that before I give it away and make sure that it's a really good rooted in plant. Now this guy, we've only got one cutting inside of the crown of the plant. Keep going. I don't know how much I need to fill the crown because it's really full. So I think after this, the rest of these cuttings are just going to go in water. I want to use fresh water for the cuttings, not water with fertilizer in it. If you just leave fertilizer sitting in a vase, it gets pretty gross. So I've just got plain water in here, and the rest of these can be popped in the water. So again, cut off the trail, pull off some leaves. This one I feel like I could do 2 cuttings, so I'm going to cut it right above this leaf. Take these leaves off. We're going to put this in the water, and then we're going to put this in the water. Make sure it stays in there. Okay. And then we've got this one. These in the water. Prefer to leave 2 or 3 leaves if I can above the water. Okay. This is good enough for me. We'll get her watered in and put it back where she was living in the kitchen. And then I'll put this somewhere where I can access it quicker, probably by my kitchen sink to keep it filled with fresh water. Occasionally you want to empty these vases out, totally clean the vessel, and put the roots back under fresh water because it can get kind of slimy and yucky. And even once those vases with the cuttings in them get roots, I do not fertilize them. Like I mentioned, it can just get really kind of gross in there with the fertilizer. All right, just take that all up. Awesome. Okay, let's put these away, and then we'll grab the last 2 trailers that I want to work with today, and they're going to be super simple because they're just a straight transplant on one, and then some cutting and replacing, if that makes sense, on the other. This plant is a lipstick plant. I don't know the name. I'll put it up on the screen. I forget. But you can see it's getting very long and traily, but its crown is empty. I've got a little what is this? A potholite, I think. Crystal in here. So all I want to do is, you can see the crown is kind of empty, right? So I'm just gonna, because I don't have very many trailing, I'm actually gonna just not really focus on the trail as much. These I can take a bunch of cuttings from, and I really want to fill this crown. So I'm going to take off these two leaves. I'm going to leave two sets of leaves. Just going to kind of go through like this. Take off these two. Leave these two. Take off these two. And leave this bit. So I've got 3 there. Cut this one. I'm going to take this off. Leave that. Take these. Leave that. Same with this one. I'm going to take these off. Oops. Leave this. Take these off. And now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 little cuttings. And the rest of this can just be left alone. And I'm going to, oh look, here's a tag. What is it? What is it? What is it? This is a Nematanthus Greg. Shady Lady. What does it say? Shady Lady. Shady Lady Heidi? Okay. Sure. Anyway. Stick that back down in there. I'm going to put a little bit of fresh soil on top. Just to give it a little charge. Take this crystal out for now. Just give it a little bit of a charge. Some fresh soil. It's pretty young. We'll take it out of here and just double check that there's no roots coming out the bottom. There's a tag. If there was roots with this small of a container, I would probably just root prune and take the roots off, because it's just so small. It's not this plant is not filling this container yet. Okay, so then you could get some root tone and dip this in root tone. I don't have any right now, so I'm just gonna plant these right in the soil. Pretty confident that it'll be just fine that way. I don't know much about this type of plant. I'm not sure if these leaves would propagate. They are kind of succulent, but they're also kind of waxy. And sometimes plants that have that type of a leaf, if you cut it, oops, right here, like this, and expose some of this, like the cells of the leaf, and you just set that right on the surface of the soil, sometimes they'll root in. So I'll just leave that one example in there and see if it works, and then I'll know for future planting. But for right now, I'm just gonna get these in, and they've all got where I cut it and one leaf node at least. And I want to put the stem all the way up above that top leaf node that's exposed. And now the crown of the plant is nice and full. Go ahead and, where's that leaf? I don't want to crush the leaf. A little crystal back in there. And then I'll water this in and she'll be good to go for a while. Okay. The next one I'm going to plant, I've already got my soil prepped. To need a, okay, good. All right. So I just recently picked this up at a pharmacy. It has no name. It's a foliage basket. So I'm going to have to do a little research on it and find out exactly what it is. But I thought it was so it's just like so fun looking, and I just wanted to have it in my collection since I'm adding new plants into the collection. But you can kind of see how the plant, I don't know if you could tell, but it's sunk. See if you can tell if it's how it's kind of like sinking down. Oops. Sinking down from the rim of the container to where the soil is. I feel like it would benefit from some fresh soil, and yeah, so I'm just gonna pop it out of its container like this, and it's nicely formed, but it's not root bound. And I'm gonna sink this down in here because I basically want to just pop it right inside of this container like this, and I'm just going to fill soil all around this container. Okay, I'm going to fill this middle up, and we're just going to pull it out of there like this. Okay. Okay. And now I take this out and see that there's just a hole there, and I can just grab this plant carefully. I can do it with one hand. And you just kind of course, with the trails, it's a little bit more difficult than a regular plant, but it should just slide right in there, just like that. And now she can kind of fill in this space. Isn't that beautiful? The fact that I don't have too much of this trailing bits tucked underneath her, since I did that with one hand. Okay. We're all good. There. What's this? Anything? No. Okay. All right. Looks good. All right, so then I'm just going to kind of tuck that soil down around the crown and make sure all the roots have contact. And now it can just kind of spread out in here, and I imagine it'll kind of root in around there. That's kind of what it looks like it's doing. It's just like rooting and rooting and rooting. But I do like the little bit of trails, so I'm going to leave the trails and just see how she does. I don't have a plan of where she's going, so I'm going to get her water in and then decide on a container. I don't know. I've got this container. I think she'll fit in here. Beautiful. Okay. because this is tapered, I'm going to see if setting a piece of styrofoam on the bottom, and then the drip tray, and then the container. Oh, it's just perfect. Okay. And then the rest, then what I'll do is just put some moss around it. She'll be good to go. And this will give these trailing bits something kind of soft to land on as it's growing, rather than the sharp edge of the containers. Oops. Now the only question is, where's she gonna live? I don't know yet. The lip is really tight in there. Much room for the moss. Very sweet, and she's got a new home. Excellent. All right, and then we'll just get both of these watered in and with some fertilizer, and they'll be very happy for the foreseeable future. And I'm going to clean up, and this is going to be the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you were inspired to give your plants a little love and a little haircut, because they really respond to it and they love it, and it's really easy to propagate some plants to give away or to make extras for your own home. And I hope that you're celebrating your life, and we'll see you soon in the next video. Bye.